This timeline's just not quite right anymore. I think it's time we made a better one. Alrighty, where to start? Well, first off we can say that I think it's important for you guys to know why I placed everything where I did, because in my last timeline video I didn't really explain what was going on, I just explained my final product. And I don't want to seem like I'm saying that my timeline is the right one. There's a bunch of timelines out there that are supposedly flawless too. I don't want to say mine's flawless, there's flaws in everything. You can't avoid having flaws, it's just too complicated to do that. All I'm trying to do is give people who are curious about the series an answer to how all the games can be put together. Also, before I get into the timeline, I want to make sure I cover some frequently asked questions that I had from the last timeline. First thing, pronunciation. You can pronounce these words any way you want, I don't really care. I know what you're saying and you know what I'm saying. You could say Deku, I could say Deku, it means the same thing. So don't get on me or any other Zelda theorist on how they pronounce things. It's just how they say it, don't get on them for it. Secondly, behave if you find something that you think is contradicting in the timeline. You're not Jesus, you're not that special. And most of the time when I go over all these contradictions that people say they find, I tend to find them wrong. But then again, it's hard to find a right or wrong answer clearly in this whole series. So, once again, behave, be G-rated, don't say anything you shouldn't be saying, and just relax. It's a game, we're doing this for fun. Now back to my timeline. Recently, I've been moving a lot of games around, and it looks really sketchy right now. I've been trying to incorporate all the best ideas I can find from the biggest Zelda theorists out there, specifically Lansoon's and True Edge 2097's. I've been trying to assemble all the biggest theories and speculations that's out there all in one timeline so that everyone's happy. One of these speculations was about the Picori blade being the Master Sword. Personally, I'm still not entirely sure if it is or not, but I'm leaning on the side that it isn't. Art-wise, they're almost identical, and they serve the same purpose. I'm not trying to make you believe that it is. I mean, everything in here that's speculation is for you to choose to want to believe or not. Those aren't my only reasons, but still, if you keep it on my part of the timeline where I had it, the Master Sword was no longer necessary for the rest of the games. So I just included the speculation in there because it still made sense, and people who do believe that are going to accept this timeline still. But now with Skyward Sword and some afterthoughts to it, I'm thinking about moving everything around that has to do with the Picori blade, and that might completely mess everything up if I still want that aspect and that speculation in my timeline. Let's take a look at the intro to Minish Cap, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. I always found this interesting. In the beginning of Minish Cap, they make reference to a previous game, and right away this is reminding me of Skyward Sword. It's just being taken over by Shadow, not specifically Ganon. But keep in mind the Skyward Sword concept as you read this next line. The tiny Picori appeared from the sky, bringing the hero of men a sword and a golden light. I think this was an early reference to Skyward Sword. Or not, it's all how you interpret this line. If they brought the man a sword and the golden light from the sky, or if they brought the man the sword and the golden light all from the sky. It's the fact that they didn't punctuate this properly and put their commas in where they should, it's what's kind of messing with this. If there was a comma after men and sword, then it would clearly mean that all of it came from the sky, and this is the Skyward Sword story. But for now, it's up for you to decide what it is. Now, in this next slide, just take a look at this guy. He's very old looking for their cartoon style that they used for the cel-shaded games. And it is kind of strange they make reference to an older character who is also in Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword is an older Link. But if that was the case, that means that the Skyward Sword is the Picori blade, right? And if that's true, that means that not only the Skyward Sword becomes the Master Sword, but it's also the Picori blade, which, since the Picori blade and the Master Sword would have to be the exact same thing, would eventually have to become the Four Sword. So all of the swords that are major and important in this game are actually the same piece of equipment. That's pretty ridiculous. If you still want to follow that speculation, it's fine. I'm going to do my best to incorporate it into my timeline so it works for you people who do believe it, but personally, I'm still kind of hanging on the edge and I don't think that's true. My next big question about the timeline I had was, in the adult timeline, how Twin Rova could randomly reappear once again even though they were killed in Ocarina of Time. That was actually a mistake on my part. I do not remember them popping back up. I think that was the only thing that someone caught me on. But just to have a reason for it, I did say that since all they were really for was for reincarnation acts and trying to bring Ganon back, that since their act of death in Ocarina of Time was pretty cartoony, it seemed to be staged almost, and they could have brought themselves back somehow. This is Zelda, it's possible. I just didn't want to move A Link to the Past because it just fit too perfectly there for me. I liked how if Ganon the monster was sealed away right there, and eventually into the Dark Realm from A Link to the Past, he's going to try and break back through. I also explained how he had all three pieces of the Triforce with him. He brought his piece with him to the Dark Realm, and eventually, after Link was gone, and Zelda was gone, the ones who actually had the other pieces assumingly would have went back to the Sacred Realm, which at the time was the Dark Realm, and assumingly Ganon found them both and tried to take over Hyrule again. Now there are some other games I do want to move around, like Link's Awakening. I don't like where it is up there. I wanted to move Four Swords Adventures, along with the original Four Swords and Minish Cap. So this next timeline is going to look pretty different. By the time this next one's made, it's going to have Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks and Skyward Sword in it. And of course I gotta take out that question block where we thought the Zelda Wii was going to show up then. The only real problem I think I'm gonna have is deciding where I want to put Link to the Past and Four Swords Adventures, because there's just too many similarities between that game to have them on different sides of the timeline. So anyway, the next timeline video you're going to see by me is going to have Spirit Tracks in it. Not Skyward Sword, but later this year I'm going to have the one with Skyward Sword in it, but the next one is going to have Spirit Tracks with all the edits I was just talking about in this video. Now before I go, I do want to confirm that Lansoon, True Edge, and myself are planning a live online teleconference on the Zelda timeline. When this will be and how we're going to do it is still undecided at this point, but I just wanted to make sure that it was confirmed and you guys know what was going on. That's all I have for now, so I'm the Ocarina Hero, and I'll see you guys later.